Visible with liberty and justice for all.
This is the Preble Town Board meeting of November 14th, 2022. Are there any additions, deletions, or corrections to the October regular meeting minutes, the Moravido special meeting minutes, or the budget meeting minutes from last week?
I make a motion to accept the minutes.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Carried? Just started. At this time, we want to introduce our presenters, Kathy Bischoff and your partner,
Yes, Kelly Preston.
Kelly Preston.
Yep.
Okay.
All right, so hopefully everybody had their coffee again, because we can go into this in detail as much as you want. Kind of title it everything you want to know about Cortland County redistricting and was afraid to ask. So Kathy and myself are co-chairing the commission for redistricting in Cortland County. The other members are the majority leader, George Wagner, minority leader, Bo Harbin, our county chairman, Kevin Fitch, and then there's 7 members on the advisory board. One of them here tonight, Amy Bertini, is on the advisory board. So we're here. Don might want one of those papers too. So we're here because by law, we must complete redistricting maps based on the 2020 federal census. Cortland County population now, according to the people that responded to the 2020 census, is 46,809, which is down 5.12% from 2010, which was 49,336. Because the proposed map of 17 legislators failed in the spring at the last moment, the commission felt it very important to get out the information to the municipalities. So that's why we are here presenting. No one really likes the process we must follow, but at least there is an education process to this. So the very front of the page just shows you a timeline that we're working off of. We started in again in September after the first map failed. And we just we're trying to stick to this as much as possible, but with some variation. But if you go over to the very right, you'll see that we hope to have a final map vote at our legislative session on April 27th. And some people might think, why is that taking so long? In a minute, you're going to see why it's taking so long. So flipping to the next page, just got a title page, and then everyone knows pretty much there's a federal census every 10 years, and all citizens are supposed to respond to it. And then an accurate count of the population serves as the basis for fair political representation and plays a vital role in many areas of public life. What's it mean for Cortland County? I've already gone over this population. Of course, we went down a little bit. Who knows what's going to happen in 2030 with Micron coming up to Syracuse. Let's hope that our population goes up. Maybe Preble will go up. Just a short ride down 81. Who knows? If you go to this colorful map, that shows the municipality population. So heading into Preble, the people that responded, 1357. So why are we here? Why do we have to do new maps? Because in 2021, Governor Hochul signed legislation that the number one priority for the legislators, the county legislators, would be that the districts are nearly equal in population as possible. Right now, if you flip to the next page, for the previous map, the equal population was 10%. Now it is 5%. So the whole concept that the governor wants is no more weighted vote. It's for equal representation. What comes to mind to me is currently one of the legislators, I believe it's maybe or
Mitch.
yeah, it's Mitch. So he's got
He's the highest.
Cincinnatus and Taylor
Right.
and
And
Willett.
Mhm,
He
Freetown.
he represents about 33 and change, 3,300 and change, where a city, a representative that lives in the district of the city of Portland would be Kathy, and
Right.
you're 27,
Right, yeah.
2,800,
Yeah.
something like that. So the governor says, no can do. We want the representatives to be within 5% from top to bottom.
Right, so the most populous district and the least populous district can only have a 5% max difference between the two.
Okay?
So is this just dealing with the county, or is
Yes.
this a statewide
No,
thing?
we're
This
here
is
from the
statewide,
county. Right.
yeah.
The state has done theirs, and it
Well,
may be under appeal. I'm not sure.
Yeah, oh, well, this entire, all the counties within
Right,
the
but the
state.
counties have to stay within that 5%,
Correct,
but
yeah.
the state doesn't have to stay within
Oh,
the 5%.
oh,
I,
yeah.
I don't know the
Correct.
state. I don't know the state laws. We got enough problems with the
Congressional
county. I
districts?
don't know.
I don't know, that's a good question.
don't know.
I don't know, I doubt it.
Yeah.
No, it can't be.
So
It's just
the
the county.
redistricting rules. So that's at the next page.
Yeah.
So you can see the priority, and we've already said that the districts are equal in population as practical, not to be drawn with the intent or result of denying or abridging the equal opportunity of racial or language minority groups. All the districts have to be contiguous. You can't have a part of a district, say Kevin, have something down in the village just to make the numbers. It has to be contiguous, be as compact. What'd you say?
It said no spot zoning.
No spots on it. That's it.
Not to be drawn to
Right.
discourage competition or favor incumbents or a political party. Consider existing district cores, political subdivisions, and communities of interest. That was vague. Amy has brought up in this district, Little York Lake. That certainly is a community of interest that we need to try to get them together as best we can.
Mhm.
Another one is the Amish in Marathon, SUNY Cortland,
So,
Great Peak.
mhm.
We have a lot of communities of interest that we're trying to work with also besides the municipalities. No village or city or towns except those having more than 40% of a full ratio of each district shall be divided. There's certain, it's mathematical, there's certain districts at certain numbers of legislators that cannot be broken up.
And we'll explain it.
Yeah, to be forthcoming. And then be formed so as to promote the orderly and efficient administration of elections. So if you go now to the redistricting options. So we are in the process of deciding how many legislators is good for Portland County. And I hope that all members here will give that some good thought. We currently have 17. Is the county functioning well at 17? Will it function better if there's less? I don't know, but that's a decision that the commission has to make very soon because we need a new map. And you'll see that if we stick to 17 now, the ideal population is 2753 for each legislator. And as we go down, of course, in the number of legislators, 15, of course, your constituent base is going to go up. So you can see how that numbers are. Right now, nothing's off the table. We have maps of 17, 15, 13. We are trying to keep it on an odd number
Mhm.
so that there won't be a tie on any issue. Let's see.
And I think the key about this is that difference, that 5%, when you're dealing with a 17, it means that between the most populous district and the least populous district in a 17 map, there can only be 138 people difference. Okay? Same for 15. The most populous to the least, there can be only be 156 resident difference. That's how small that difference is. All right? Just keep that in perspective.
So
Which is
it's-
why it's challenging to put these maps together.
Okay.
All right.
So if you go to the next one, this is key.
Yep.
And Kathy is an expert on this. Kathy, you want to explain?
Okay, so this is good, this chart, but let's go to the part that's actually typed, because it states it a little bit more clearly, okay? So it says, the law is this, that for any district that is 40% below the mid population range for a number of districts, you cannot divide that district. So if the mid population range for district 17, right, is 2753, you cannot divide any district that is 1,100 residents and below. That's 40% of the mid, that's 40% of 2753, okay? Which means that for a 17 map, all these towns cannot be divided. If you wish to put them together in a map, you must put the entire town together as a block, okay? So Cincinnatus, Schuyler, Freetown, Hartford, McGraw, Scott, Solon, Taylor, Truxton, Village of Marathon, Lapeer, and Willow have to stay intact. You cannot take any population away from them. All right. Anything that's divisible would be above that midpoint range. And then for most of the larger districts, they are divisible for most of the number of maps. Okay. You will see that Preble, bring to a lower range, where these are the divisible districts. That means you can take residents away from them and add it to another district. Okay, you don't need to keep their boundaries intact. So the town of Marathon, the town of Preble, town of Homer, village of Homer, town of Virgil, Cortonville, and the city of Cortland all can be divisible. Is everyone comfortable with that? Okay. All right.
Comfortable with the explanation anyway.
Comfortable, just understand.
Understand
Right,
it. Yeah,
right.
that's true.
Right.
Preble is only divisible at a 17 and 15 district map. Okay, if we were to do a 13 district map, we'd have to keep Preble together. Okay, okay, all right. What does that mean? For our current districts, do you have a current district map?
This
We
is
do.
the current one.
Our current district map, as you know, and I'll give you an example. Let's take the Truxton, Solon, Schuyler district, okay, right up there, all right? They currently have a population of 2968. Well, that's above the midpoint range, and it's also above your top range. Your top range for a 17 district map is about 2822 to 2830, okay? They're at 2968. None of those districts, though, are divisible. So you can't take anything away from them. So you cannot put Schuyler, Truxton, and Solon together anymore in a 17 district map. You have to do a different configuration.
So this
Okay.
is the current.
That's
How
the
it
current
is.
map. And under a 17 district map, they cannot be put together anymore. Okay? So what you have to do is on the map that actually we did, you put Schuyler, Taylor, and Solon together because that's below the range. And then you have to add a little from Cortonville to make the numbers. Okay? So that you can put together. All right. Now this is a 17 district map. Okay. Different when you're looking at 15, 13%.
This is the one that failed
That's the one that
in the
failed.
spring.
And there are specific reasons why it did, and we'll go into that in a second. So let's look at Virgil Hartford. Okay. Virgil Hartford, as you know, is together. They've been together, I've been told, since God, and that's been true. But they're at 3301, their existing population. They've got to get down to 2830. They have to lose a lot of Virgil in order to do that, because you can't divide Hartford. Hartford's one of those small districts, they have to stay intact. So the only area that you can take away from is Virgil. You take a lot of that territory, which is what happens in a 17 map. Here's the map that we did, and you can see this territory right in here had to be taken away, and this territory had to be taken away. Virgil was not happy about that at all. They expressed extreme displeasure during our public hearing. Okay. The other challenge you have is that because of where Cortonville is situated, it touches all these districts, okay? And so it's also divisible because it's one of the larger districts. And so when you're trying to put maps together and you need a little territory to make numbers, Cortonville, yes, Cortonville is kind of tagged your way. It's the place where you take those numbers in order to make your ranges. So Cortonville went from 3 representatives to 8 representatives in the 17 district map. There is no way to avoid that. Okay, our map, the planning map, which was done by planning.
This was
Any
certified.
map you do for 17 is going to have to take a lot of territory away from Georgia Hartford to make it work. There's going to have to have more legislative representatives from Cortonville in order to make it work. So it's 17 is problematic for those reasons. If you wanted to stay with 17, we would have to accept those challenges. We just would. Okay?
And Cortlandville was not happy,
There's
although
not-
they had, and I don't call them Cortlandville legislators. They're not. They
No,
have
they're
their
not.
own.
they have-
They're county legislators that live in the district of Cortlandville, and it's really important. It's strange what we do. We are elected by constituents in a district, but then my theory is we don't work for the towns or the villages. We work at large for the county of Cortland.
So let me give you an example. Joe Nossif lives in McGraw. Okay, he represents McGraw, but he also represents Cortlandville. All right. Kevin represents 3 districts.
Right.
Okay. So there are people who represent a variety of districts, but Cortlandville's been so used to having its number. I think it was a shock for people. I think it was a shock for Virgil. I think it was Truxton didn't want to get separated from Kyle and so on. I mean, people had, I think, an initial strong reaction to the map being different from where we've been. But that 5% really limits our options. It really does.
So you
In
see
terms
what
of
we
what we
came
can
up
do.
with.
Okay.
And Kathy is a whiz at
Well.
district builder. She is. She's going to be modest.
Okay.
But that's what we came up with, and
Right.
it failed. And it was certified.
It was right. It's certified to meet all the requirements of the state. But the challenge is that, as I said, Virgil really was upset about this. Cortonville was upset about the number of representatives. So it became problematic.
This is the one that the planning department
Right,
proposed.
right.
So I think probably being standing in trouble tonight, you probably would have been upset at that one.
Yes.
Because you would have been split.
You would have been split. Okay. And we tried to avoid that. We tried to the degree that we could in this map, tried to keep things that were together like this, kind of like this, that we could within that framework of the 17. So obviously at that point, the committee is looking at the 15 maps and the 13 maps, which give you more flexibility to keep things together like it currently is. Okay, to keep the trucks and so on together. And one of the reasons why we're going from town to town is we want to hear your input, because it's clear that there are certain decisions that are going to need to be made with these maps, depending on what number we do. And so we've already been to 6 towns so far. Yeah, and gotten a lot of great feedback. And that's why we're here tonight. One, to answer any questions you have about the districting, anything that isn't clear right now, or anything about the sort of features that we're considering or can't consider in the various maps.
I think you guys missed the big one too.
Okay, we missed it.
What?
We haven't done that yet. Yeah.
I know, but
We're coming.
you're kind of saying you're doing this,
All right.
but you kind of need to tell them
Yeah.
why you're doing that with this.
Right.
The census blocks?
Yes,
You mean?
so in addition to keeping all those blocks together, like the Kylers and the Truxtons and the Solons and the Taylors, which you cannot break up, so you have to move them as big blocks in districts. You also, even in the divisible areas, they are made up of blocks, and they're made up of federal census blocks that are shaped very strangely, okay, and have specific numbers assigned to them. So when you start to try to say, for instance, if I wanted to put the Scott and Preble block together, right? But I needed a little bit more here, and I go down, I can't just take my own pen and draw that line. I have to literally go and look to see what the blocks are, the federal census block, which is the basic unit, and then work with those blocks to put something together. And sometimes it's very difficult, because as you'll see, both in your packet and this map,
Yeah.
these blocks are
This is just an
shaped
example.
very weirdly. See how they're shaped? I mean, they're not little square
So
rectangles.
this is the.
They have these long, they look like finger, okay? And they have these long, sometimes very odd,
So the number
forms
represents the
and
number of
and
people
set
in the
numbers.
block.
So you can't break those
No,
down.
you can't.
You gotta
can't.
follow those lines
You
no
gotta-
matter what.
No
Yes.
matter what, exactly. You have to
It's
follow
a
those
math
lines
measure,
no matter
also
what,
nightmare.
and you can't break any of those numbers up. So if you needed a 15 block and you got an 11 block, so sorry, you're gonna have to look for another block. So it really makes your life very difficult. And you have to use your eyesight and trying to stare at your map and trying to put those little things together. Okay, so that's some of the challenges that we face.
Yeah.
I think the bigger issue is this, and this is what we've had a discussion. Once you start going down and you're looking at the 15 or the 13s or the 11s, or even the 9 districts, and more people affiliated with a legislator, that legislator is going to become less and less in some ways accessible. They become more and more professional. They may even become what I would consider almost 3/4 time. There's a lot of responsibilities that even at a 17 level takes a considerable amount of time at this if you take your role seriously. And I once calculated we do not make minimum wage. We do not. So there is that question of in terms of what do the people want? Do the people want something? You could argue, well, maybe with 9 you'd be more efficient, although I'll probably posit that. I'm not sure 9 necessarily means it's more efficient than a 17, but we've heard from people that they really want us to go down. Okay, but that has ramifications. It has ramifications in terms of the type of people who now can apply for these jobs, because if it's going to take more time, you're going to be less able to get people who work during the day who are still willing to serve. So your pool of candidates becomes smaller.
Right.
And
I would think we want a diverse representation.
Yeah.
I'm retired. I'm very fortunate that I was able to do that as a 30-year with the government and reached 55. Very, very fortunate. But do you want all retired people on? I personally say no. I want somebody from Cornell. I want a
James
business
Wilker.
owner. Right.
We have several.
We have
legislators who
IT
work.
people, right. So as you go down in number, and another thing, let's face it, there's always the drivers in the bus and the riders.
Right.
You got what? If you're lucky, you get 75% workers and 25% you kind of ride along. It's probably not quite that ratio. I mean, let's be honest.
Yep.
Who's here tonight? Who's here doing this? So you got to keep that in mind as you go down in legislators. Just be thinking about that. Budget has come up. We make $10,000 a year. Kevin makes a little bit more, but he's got a lot more work and a lot more responsibilities. There's no benefits, but I don't think anybody signs up for the wage. Personally, I benefited from the county when I worked at the county clerk's office. Judy Reelman said, "Why don't you take some college courses, Kelly?" And the county paid my tuition. I had to do the work, I had to buy the books, but this is my payback to the county taxpayers for doing what you did for me to get a paralegal degree. So thank you very much. But I think that's the story with a lot of us, is it's our time to give back. So we want to hear from you. We want to hear what your thoughts are on 17, 15, 13, if you've got reasons. And we're here because the advisory board has really kind of been saying, no, gotta have less. Budgetary.
Some of them.
Some of them, right. We want to hear what your thoughts are. That's why we're coming out to the people and asking, what do you think? I'm going to take notes because tomorrow we are having a redistricting meeting. And I'm going to say, in Preble, this is what I heard. We got an earful last week in Kyler.
We did.
They like a rural person. They don't want somebody from the city or even the big town of Homer to be their representative.
Same thing I heard in Taylor and in Freetown.
That's what I was looking at, the Truxton going with Homer. I mean, they're not similar populations.
No.
Yeah, and so that's why we're here. The challenge when you go from a weighted vote to a equal vote, because we're such a small county, it really does impact us in ways that I think that people may not find comfortable. It may not make sense for the county. And I think that's one thing that we've heard is people have looked at us and say, do what's best for the county. Yeah, it's fine. Find out what other counties do. But in the end, do what's best for the county.
Can we write Kathy Huffle a letter saying this is not working? For our county?
Yeah.
I mean, really,
Let's see.
why do we have to do what she tells us to do?
Well, and we did run that by our county attorney.
And if a lot of counties in New York State wrote that letter, she would reconsider this. She would have to,
Not necessarily.
you know?
What they do is they say,
Sure.
thou shall do this or else.
That's right. Right.
And then that's where you're funding.
Or else.
Right.
Yeah. They
So
hold funding.
So there's currently 17
Correct.
districts.
it's currently 17 districts.
I like 17.
So
and
here's,
You can
so,
hear,
so
like your representative comes to the town board, you can hear what's going on. If the same meeting is in Scott or Chuckston and wherever we got together,
Right.
how's he gonna go to each of
That's
those
right.
towns?
That's right.
So,
Thank you.
I forgot. Oh, anything below a 7. So if we were to go and do a 17, you do not have to go to referendum. We could choose to go to referendum, but you don't have to, which means the map would just go to a vote for the legislature, up or down. And we've already had one down.
So if you stayed with the 17 though, you put a map together with the 17 that
We did.
went down.
It went down.
here's,
Just the
So
map
then-
did, not
here's the
number of
reason why it
districts,
went down.
Yeah, but it was based on 17.
Yeah,
It was based on 17.
Yeah.
And Kathy and Kelly, I mean, they worked pretty hard for
Yeah,
that.
hours and hours
17.
and hours.
The reason why it went down was because we ended up having two, we had a public hearing. And we had Tom Williams, the supervisor. He was online. We had one person in person that from Virgil.
We
Well,
had John and we had whoever.
yeah, they were same family.
Oh, same family. Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
So-
2 members of the same family.
Where Tom Williams said was, he was like, look at, you know, we have too many representation here, you know, for Cortlandville, which is really, it's different districts. Cortlandville is huge.
Yeah, it is.
You have no other choice but to do that, right? For it. But then he said he really wished that municipalities had input, and you never gave us the input. So that was public hearing. And then we had, you know, from Virgil, because one of the things that Kathy and Kelly had to do is delineate these lines. Where the line delineation was a road. One side was one district, the other side was the other. Oh, they didn't want that. They wanted to stay whole.
Yep.
Well, everybody wants to stay whole.
And right
you're
now, in my Kevin, right in my district right now, on Creel Road in Homer, I'm on one side of the road. I'm in District 10. The other side of the road, I think, is yours.
Yeah.
And so that his point was mute, but he's the one that showed up at the hearing. So we already have that now, and that is because of these federal census
Yes.
blocks. We can't break them up.
So you have to follow the line.
You have to follow the line.
So what, the legislature listened to that comment and then turned it down as a result? But they
I-
didn't realize it was that way anyway.
Well, what the legislature was looking at, and what we talked about was, you know, maybe, I mean, this was not, we're dealing with a 1972 law. And, you know, there's no process here. There's nothing to tell you how to do it. So that was when the legislatures decided, okay, let's put this down. We won't go it. We'll start over, and we'll go out to the municipalities to get their input. That was the only reason why it failed.
Right.
Was solely because of that. Was because, okay, let's take a look. Does Cortlandville have a monopoly on the legislature? It all depends on how you look at it.
Right.
You know, that's what it was. I mean, it was like looking at it, it's like, man, God, these guys got a lot of legislators.
Yeah.
But it had totally different. I mean, what do they benefit? What does Cortlandville benefit by having multiple legislators?
It depends how much.
It's not sales tax revenue, let me tell you that,
Yeah.
because the county only has to negotiate with the city of Cortland.
Mhm.
So it has nothing to do with that. I don't see what the political struggles were at this point. But that's what we did. We ended up just going back and saying, okay, let's make a process and let's do it. This is the first of the process. And now all of a sudden, what are we hearing? You know, we're hearing people, well, what's wrong with what we have? Absolutely nothing other than 5% difference.
Right.
That's the only thing different. Can it be done and separate them out with 17 legislators? It can, but not everybody is going to be happy
That's for true.
solely because of population. That's it. Totally. So as we talked about with Micron, I mean, big anticipation here that we're going to have. So the next census, oh my God, we're going to need 19 more, 19 legislators. Or if we cut it too short, we're going to have to go right back up to it. Who knows? It's kind of like a little crapshoot when you're looking at this. So financially, what are we saving when you get down legislators? 10 grand each. That's what you're saving. You get down even more, what are you going to do? It's going to increase because legislators, we got so few of them, they want more money. At that point, we need medical benefits. We need this. So is there a cost and effect here? Absolutely. So to me, this is really because of one person.
So I think what happened is it was just the shock of it, to answer your question, but I think it was just, this is the new map. It was something that was forced out the gate. I wonder if anything out the gate would not have failed just because it was the first. That could have been part of it too. I don't think people, even though we were telling people these meetings were open and they could come, people really didn't pay attention until at the last 11th hour. And so I think that was a challenge. So we sat down and said, okay, let's do this differently so we don't have this challenge, and look at a map and a project.
We also had public comment. So we had public comment on the website. Public comment, it's not worth its weight in gold. If you're looking at, the weighted vote here, there was like 6 that wanted to reduce, and then there was like 10 that wanted to keep it as it is. We're okay with it. So it was no real thing.
Public comments too.
Yeah.
I said, no, you got to put your name to it. Remember all that, because they would come in anonymous. Well, anybody can sit there and write something. And my theory is it was a lot of people that were right around at the redistricting commission, the advisory board. Did any of you put any public comment on there?
Didn't know it was supposed to.
That's right.
Yeah.
So that's why we're here, because we're bringing it to the people, because I want to hear what you have to say. I already know what the advisory board is saying. They do now have to put their name to it. There is no more anonymous comments. One of my points that I always say too is I believe if you bring the numbers down, I think it becomes more political. So I'm a Republican. I do my own work. So I get my own petition signed. Don can verify that. I go house to house. Now, if that's because I need 38 signatures, something like that, 38, 40 signatures. If I can't get that myself, I shouldn't be running for a legislator. But if you start upping that where I got to get 100, then I probably need help from the political party. I don't like that because I don't want to owe something to any political party. I don't work for them. I work for the constituents in Homer, and I'm very adamant about that. So if you come down in number, and I have to get, what is it? You get 10% of your population or your constituents. If you start upping that where I've got to get 75 or 100, and of course, Governor Cuomo made it so we no longer get our petition signed in the summer when y'all are out pulling a weed or mowing your lawn. We've got to walk in with our snowy boots in March and April and slip and slide in the ice.
February.
So it makes it a lot more difficult. Yeah, I'm gonna need help from the political party and I really don't want to.
Just throw a couple things
Mhm.
out there.
Yep.
And I think before you hit it on the head, is public comment. Maybe you've switched gears now into public education.
Yep.
You pretty much know where we got to go with this, is what I'm picking up on. I mean, there's a little gray area, but we kind of know where we're headed. But just curiosity's sake, how, like Cortlandville, Joe Q. Smith goes to vote in Cortlandville, and his neighbor across the street is in another district. How is that determined where they're going to go to a different polling site? They're going to be, because as soon as you start labeling that, now you've just about opened up the can of where you could trace that vote.
Right. So, okay, so you went a different way that I didn't expect you to go. Let me answer this from an
Back
election
off the
district
last
point of view.
sentence, sorry.
Yeah, okay, that's okay. So from an election district point of view, it's the very last criteria in the number of rules that we have to follow is efficient administration of elections. You do have to balance that. You do have to think about it. However, this map will go to referendum or not, but it will go to vote sometime in this summer. And let's assume it does go to referendum. There is no way we can be ready for next election anyhow. So we're talking 4 years down the way.
Right.
And as a consequence,
Mhm.
we have time to really sit back and look at those election districts, okay, and see what we can do. We've asked the election commissioners about just-in-time balloting. Anyone did early voting this year? You go down to their main office, you put in your address. Doesn't matter, as long as they've got the address, they can print you a ballot for your area. You got it, you're down the road. So with your just-in-time capability, suddenly those lines aren't as complicated as they were in the past. Okay. Now, I'm not sure that gets to your answer, but yeah, go ahead.
And you brought up another interesting point. If it's not going to be ready for this cycle,
Yeah.
It won't.
well, then at that point, you're only 4 years from the next census, and then you're going to start all over this,
Yeah.
the whole.
So
Rock
that
again.
that is the challenge that we're facing.
Well, we come here with our ballots all printed up. So how are they gonna know which district they're in?
So
Like she's gonna be a different one than I am.
right.
So we go together and we get the same one.
right.
How do they know?
So what will happen, Betty, is that once the mat is approved, and obviously you're now going to have a couple of years, they would change around election districts, so they'd be able to do that. Okay, and they would know, right? They would do that as they would in any time when they did the 2012. Okay, when they did the 17, they had to change around election districts. In fact, it was a big deal because of what happened to the city with the 2012 legislative district process. We hope to be a little bit more efficient this time, but two points though. One, there's going to be time between the map approval and the actual casting of the vote. There's going to be at least 3 years. Okay, so I think within 3 years we can figure out a good system. The second thing is the technology is changing, and as I said, you don't necessarily need to do printed ballots anymore. All right, we can consider doing something different. So there are opportunities for us to look at it differently.
So
Yeah, no.
Facts.
one example that when I was walking with Mr. Nassif, who I was just helping, he was a new new candidate, and I walked Bell Drive with Mr. Nassif. And I was shocked. Those folks told me they vote in Polkville because it's Cortlandville.
Right.
So, I mean, I was shocked. I would have thought, they could have gone over to the town hall in Homer. Someday they'll be able to walk over there with the technology, scan their
Yeah.
photo, bingo, out pops
Right.
their
Ballot.
district, their
Exactly.
ballot, their specific propositions on the back, just like you do early voting. The time is coming.
Yep.
But the machinery is very expensive, so we're gonna need 10 years to budget for that one.
Yeah, we are going to. But the point is that I believe we can accommodate it. In fact, even get a better system in place than we have now with the current map in terms of election districts. I believe so. So what do you think?
If
Any
Preble
thoughts?
was
Yeah.
split on one
Yeah.
of these options, does that mean that we would have one legislator like Kevin come in and present, and then Kevin leaves and we'd have another legislator come in and present,
Yep.
And maybe another
That's-
one.
and maybe another one if we split 3 ways? It's very redundant, very wasteful, and it would be very confusing for us.
Yeah, we agree. Any other thoughts you have? I mean, any
Now's your chance.
I appreciate the technology being able to do that, but as soon as the technology starts splitting where you live, where you vote, all that, but also the next layer under that is now they know how you voted. That's the
Well,
next.
well,
And right now, if you go to, if you early vote,
right,
the day after, you can get a list of who voted.
right.
Because I did that. You don't know how they voted,
Just that they voted.
but you know they voted. So you kind of can figure it out. Did I go to that house? Did I go to that one? Yes, yes. I knew. And they do say, it pretty much, it runs the same as early voting.
And that you already do
Right.
know. I mean, with any list, you can tell who's voted in what election. You
Right.
don't know how they voted, but you can tell who voted.
That is how it's gonna be in the future. I don't know if I probably won't be a legislator then, but it's gonna be at some place, and at some time if we're realistic. So, did you wanna make any more points, Kevin?
You guys are doing it.
All right.
You know, I,
Off the subject just a little bit.
Yep.
People that voted to hear, went in, last name, first few letters, your last name, first couple letters, your first name pops up, your address is this, yep, okay, good to go.
you're
I
correct.
talked to Kevin down in Homer and had to show photo ID.
Yep.
Why the discrepancy? Why didn't
It's
I have to
been-
show photo ID?
It's being brought up for it. It was to me, it was a fail on the
I like consistency.
whole. It is. It was brought up a couple of times. I think Cortlandville had a problem with that as well. Is that just the inconsistency of one asking for the driver's license for verification of the signature, and then the others no. I think too, what happens, at least like when I went, they knew me, so they're like, yeah, you don't need to see your driver because I had it ready.
We didn't show ours, we voted it right at the Board of Elections.
Really?
Yeah, so did I.
Yeah, I did too.
Yeah, and then it's supposed to be a verification.
But you're supposed to sign that.
But they're not-
Oh, like that
But they're
really
not
looks like my
handwritten.
signature.
It didn't look like mine.
I
I
think
think-
it's more of the process.
Like you
It, it needs to be
Well, you're right. I
consistent.
was not aware that some people were being asked and some people weren't.
Yeah.
You also get, because I just threw it away last night, you get something, a card in the mail from the Board of Elections, and it says, take that with you when you go to vote. I didn't, I just found it last night, but I did. They didn't ask for my license, but I offered it up. I think I should. And they scanned it and out came the ballot for my specific area.
So if anything below a 17 actually does come forward as a map, those maps automatically go to referendum. So you'll actually get an opportunity to vote directly on the map. Just
Once it passes legislators.
once it passes the legislature, yes.
But if it doesn't pass the legislators, we'll come and give you another little course.
Yeah, another
'Cause it
presentation.
starts all over.
Because yes, we have to start all
Uh,
over.
for
there's
10
some-
years and then we'll
No,
just.
there's some counties that went 6 years.
Yep.
I think Onondaga County just approved theirs, right?
I think it was Cattaraugus. Wasn't it Cattaraugus that went 8?
Yeah. 8
Something-
years.
Yeah, something went 8. They went 8.
And
Before
that's
they actually
because
got
it kept
a map.
getting voted down by the county
Right,
legislators.
yes.
So that reverts
Nightmare.
back to your current people in office and your current weighted system. You voted
Correct.
down for 10 years. I'm
Yeah,
not
You're
worried
not,
about
you're not the
down.
first
Yeah,
one
if
that
they
said
want to
that.
change it,
I'm
right,
not.
they just keep.
I can do
Yeah.
that.
I think what
Eventually,
it
the state will
does
catch up.
Yeah, as long as
Now,
there's,
we'll have different government.
I guess, forward progress, I guess.
Yeah, there has to be forward progress.
There has to be forward progress.
Right.
But, you know, they keep adding these.
Caveats.
Why is the federal government and the state all into it? You know, I don't get it. I mean, you got the governor that was saying 5%, and then all of a sudden, yeah, then you can't mess with these blocks that are
Right.
so weird looking.
And that goes to a point, you said this is a rural county. Everybody in politics loves these block numbers, 5%, 10%. What's wrong with 7.5%? And that may not be half the problem that it is right now.
Mhm.
Why don't we do incrementally?
Mhm.
But no, they go and throw an unattainable number. And
Where do they get that number from?
yeah,
Where's the 5% come from?
that's the first letter they could, or number they could write
You
in
can figure it
kindergarten.
better. You do that half
So this
percent
map,
goes
I
along.
mean, as far as Preble goes, it doesn't, I'd be happy with that for Preble, but.
Does
it
this
was
meet the
trucks and
5% rule?
Oh, yes, this
is
is totally technically compliant with everything,
Yep.
including being equal, neither favoring or disfavoring any political party. Yeah, it met all the criteria.
Is that the planning board?
Yeah,
Put
that,
together?
that's
No,
the one that
actually, we
Kathy
did.
and I did.
We put it together.
Oh,
And the planning
And but it
board,
was certified by the planning board.
Trucks,
Yeah, so it's certified.
the planning board put this one together and we rejected it.
Yeah,
And for one reason, you see right here,
It's
Preble is split.
and then it goes up and down on the purple.
So it.
Yeah.
So Kevin's over here.
Right,
This is I don't even know. There's no
Tyler.
current legislator there.
no.
I kind of feel sorry for him because they got a lot of land to cover.
And then it went from that purple all the way up from the Preble Homer to all the way down here.
into Cortlandville.
Yeah,
That's the
all the way
planning board.
down.
Yes,
That's
this was the planning board.
Yeah, and so we stepped back and said, no, we
We sent it
really,
back.
Yeah.
we sent it back, and we did it.
Yeah, we don't want to split.
So.
No, and you don't have to be, no. And you don't have to be because that's the one that we created in district building.
Did
So-
they give a rationale why they would do something like that, Kelly? Did they give you any kind of explanation?
The person that puts it together, he likes everything to be, square and nicely shaped. It's not real world,
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Where that on?
and that's, people think differently, and maybe although I think he's a long-term employee.
Yeah.
I mean, I know, and Kathy isn't originally from here either, so I say Bell Drive again.
Yep.
One of her maps had Bell Drive split right down in the middle. I said, you cannot do that.
right, we
Because
changed it.
that's a neighborhood. So the two of us working together and me living here my entire life,
Yeah.
I know,
Have that nuance.
Right.
Bring that nuance out. Yep.
so there's nothing saying that we can't bring a different variation of this back again, we may. The information or the questions I'm getting in the comments have totally surprised me
Hmm.
because the people are saying different than and Amy will tell you, the advisory board is saying one thing. When I think about it, there are really not a lot of rural people on the advisory board. And that is an error. Right, you are, Bill from Marathon.
Marathon.
Rest of them are pretty much Homer,
Mhm,
or city.
mhm.
And so they don't really understand the impact, and that's what we're hearing from them. This has totally been a reversal when we come out to the towns. Very good idea, although when you said it to me, I'm like, okay, we got 3 this week. But we do due diligence to come out and give information. Anything you want to say as an advisory
Yep.
board member, Amy?
No, and actually, I didn't realize why this one failed. So that one of the meetings we went to, that was kind of not part of the discussion, so
Right.
it can be part of the discussion again.
Yep.
And most of the comments that came in, they were all about save money, get rid of people. And
Yeah,
this
save
has
money, get
nothing
rid
to
of
do with it. You get, benefits, $10,000 a year. You get rid of 3 legislators, you're saving $30,000 a year. So that has nothing to do with it. So I'm not sure that people really understood what was happening or how they could respond, but those were most of the responses that we got.
Yes.
It was just about saving money, save $10,000 a
But
year.
like Kevin said, you're only gonna save money to a certain point, and then everybody's gonna want more, and then it's gonna get It's gonna be above your
Ex-
17 that you
exactly,
made right now.
Where we saved that the legislature was pretty much 100%. I could say we were 100% on the treasurer.
Yes.
I mean, that
Oh,
was the one thing it passed.
Yeah.
And right there, we saved $34,000 with that because the treasurer wasn't doing anything other than
Plus benefits.
taking stuff to the
It
bank
was a figure.
and signing
Plus
checks.
Yeah,
That
so it's
was
like 40.
that was worth $34,000. No, it wasn't, because our departments have been taking the duties since I think 2012.
Right.
So we've been doing this, and that's what the legislature thought is, okay, this was what was wasteful.
Right.
And that's when we put it forward. And we heard things of, you're taking away people's vote. And it was like, for what? For treasurer. But we already told you what it was. Yeah, but you're still taking away their vote. That's why we said, well, let's put it to the vote for them. And it was not 100%, but it was pretty darn close in that. So
When I became a legislator in 2018, there was no one. There was no finance director.
Yeah.
There was nobody. And I would ask questions and blank stares. I don't even think we had a treasurer at that point. It was horrible. We were being written up, audited and written up by the state of New York. It was bad. And here I am new. The comptroller wanted to talk to me. I went in and I told them, there is nobody. I asked questions, there is no answer. But since then, we have one heck of a finance department directed by Andrea Herzog. And she came in from the Cortland City School District, and she is sharp. So we now have that,
And we
thank
have an
God,
auditor,
in place.
independent auditor.
Right, and an auditor, right, which used to be political appointment. So the legislature would, every 4 year, or every 2 years at that point, appoint an auditor. Well, who are you gonna get to come in and do that? Leave a job and then come in. So now that we gave it some fancy title, so it's now, he's the auditor, but it's not a political appointment. He's on his own. So much has improved. We did not need a treasurer at all. Did
and
something
the
with
treasurer said we didn't need a
Right.
treasurer.
Right, so thank you for holding that. But again, that won't be until 2024, because
Right.
he's got another year, but it's a start in the right direction.
So are there any other thoughts you might have before we leave for this evening? Well, thank you.
Thank
Really,
you.
Thank you for the time. We really appreciate it.
welcoming us,
So
you know.
our process is this, we're gonna try to land on a number of numbers. And then once we land on a number of numbers, we're gonna have a variety of maps made for those numbers. And we hope to have some sort of proposed map by February. And then we're gonna come back and engage the public again and say, what do you think? Okay, before we even put it to public hearing, before we even put it to legislative vote. Okay, so that's kind of just our overview of our process in the year.
And you'll be invited to the, what they call it, the CCTVS,
Yeah,
the
right.
group
Right.
of county and schools and towns. Because we've never done this before. I'd say we're kind of fast learners, but
Kathy and Kelly, thank you for coming.
Well, thank you.
thank you.
Thank
Oh,
you.
take that one back.
Oh, thank you.
Down to the one
Save
that
those
goes
tax
through.
dollars.
Yeah, that's right.
Hey, I'm going to Willow
Yeah,
with a city board.
Yeah. it's gonna be good for us.
That's gonna be fun.
All right.
Good luck with that.
Oh, that's gonna be fun.
And I'll see you tomorrow at the redistricting committee.
Yeah.
Jen?
Dog control, 2 strays picked up in October. Justice report, October fines collected were $11,938.
Thanks, Jen. Jeff, highway report?
Okay, you've all got a copy of the report. Lot going on for switching gears, obviously, with the cold weather coming. The engineering for Curry Road culvert is done. And what they came up with is that that'll end up being a bridge because of the flow of the water coming under 281. The good thing is they increased the Bridge New York funding from 1 to 1.5 million, and they estimate that that'll come in around 1.4. We are full steam ahead getting everything together. We're actually ahead of the curve. The official notice for Bridge New York applications has not gone out yet, but a bird sat on my shoulder a couple weeks ago and said it's coming soon. So we're trying to get that together. It'd be pretty sweet if we could make that happen. We've never been in a better position now that we've got all the engineering done, all the right of way, soil borings are done, design, and once that's, and with the only thing, the snag in the oil might be the costs of finding a firm to do the environmental impact of the mussels, like what you had down on Lawrence Crossing, the, not zebra, but the mussels, freshwater mussels. So if anybody wants to do well, start a business, start a environmental firm that does testing for mussels in the river because they're hard to find. But that being said, the way that's being designed to meet the 2 foot of freeboard over the normal high water level, that would go from the tracks, bridge, right up to 281 would actually pick up about 18 to 20 inches. And if you look at it now, it kind of drops and then comes back to the tracks. So the road itself would be a lot nicer. And then you'll have full width and all that. So fingers crossed that Bridge New York funding comes. They raised it last year was 100 million. This year it's 200 million. Is in the proposal. So if this all comes together, we may get a close to $1.5 million project taken care of, hopefully. And the best part about that is being it's a culvert now, it's 100% state funded. We don't have a match. Whereas if it was a bridge now and putting a bridge back in, it would be a 10% match for us. Likewise for the East Hill project up there, the engineering's been all done and that's been given to FEMA. Their early estimates are a little over $700,000 for that, all paid for by FEMA and a portion by New York State. If everything goes right there, we will have no matching funds needed to make that project happen. CHIPS reimbursement paperwork will be going in later this week. Just in the mail today, got the work permit required for DOT for the annual permit. That'll be going in this week. Don, quick question, if I could. The contract for our fire detection systems, I signed that in the last few years. Is that something I would sign, or is that Jim for our fire detection for our yearly contract for the highway garage? I just wanted to double check that because I was a little fuzzy if that should go through a resolution or not. Thoughts?
Jeff's been doing this in past years and it hasn't
It's one of
been
those
an
things
issue.
you get looking at, you go, well, am I skipping a step?
Well, it's, the cost
Whatever you
for
want
that's
to
in
do,
your
so.
budget now,
Yes.
so it's authorized.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that,
I don't know, are you signing other contracts?
no. Why you want me to?
Just trying to lighten Jim's load. No, I think you probably ought to head that way, but,
Okay,
okay,
it's a budgeted item, but
yeah, but if there's.
but
if
it's
they
under the
require-
general fund also.
Right,
Highway under general fund being the building.
you know, it probably ought to be signed by Jim.
Okay. There,
So
thanks
do we
for
have to
clearing that up.
make a resolution for that?
No, it's in the
No.
budget, so
Okay.
it's.
Okay, then you can sign.
Okay.
Okay, thank you for clearing that up.
Mhm.
And the last thing is, I met with Amanda Barber and Pat Reedy a couple weeks ago up at the site. And Pat's gonna be pulling some topo maps and getting some things together. I expressed to him what I've seen over the last close to 30 years and Pat's watched it for quite a few years as well, so that's moving. Now that soil and water districts, schedule's freeing up a little bit, so. Any questions? Cool.
Thanks, Jeff. Nobody here from Recreation, County Legislator. Kevin, anything you wanna say?
Boy, that was a big one. Isn't soil and water? I think they're awesome myself. I mean, for what they do for us. And all of that. But
Appreciate the help.
You can put this in circular file if you want to. But this is as far as I'm gonna go with the redistricting part for tonight. For that, I think you can take a look at that together. So, when we were talking about the legislature, I don't think a lot of people understand, what the legislature does for these. So we have 7 committees that we have to deal with, or that we do deal with. So if you take a look, all I'm saying here is that every one of these 7 boards or 7-member committees, and each of those departments under them are what we have to deal with. So they're not day to day. Everybody that wants something goes through these committees that we have. Did I screw up the?
Can I have a copy of that, please?
Oh, you betcha. Did we miss a top one, bottom one?
No, I split mine with Jim, so.
Oh,
I thought it was one page, not two.
oh no, it's a 2-document thing. I guess the point that I'm trying to make here is that when you're looking at these, there's 2, 4.
But I don't want 3 pages.
Okay, you're the one that took the one that I was looking for.
No, he gave it to me.
So what you're looking at is like ag planning environment. Every one of those that are under there, we oversee. So any resolutions that come in, any hires, anything like that, that goes through these committees. Then when you get down to other advisory boards, on the very back to here, legislators also sit on those boards. So once you start reducing the legislature, these still exist. These still have to have representatives for them. So it's just like, it's not an easy thing when you want to drop down to 11 legislators. This is what we were looking at, is what is county government? This is county government. This is what you're looking at for that. What are you you missing again?
Confused on what page she should be on.
The one with the blank at the bottom.
Yeah, at the very end.
Oh,
I gave her the right one.
no, I looked at
So like, for instance, TC3. So Cortland County and Tompkins County, we own TC3. It was the Board of Supervisors that created pretty much the community college part. So they worked together with Tompkins County, they went to the state and they created TC3. Being said, like Kathy Bischoff is our liaison for TC3, but they're also there for contract negotiations with the faculty, with the staff. I mean, it's all inclusive. So you're looking at a lot of time when you're looking at as the liaison for those. That's all I wanted to do. I just wanted to make sure that people understand that being a legislator is not just to go to the session and that's all. It's more involved, because one of the things that we have to do with this redistricting is we also have to change the 1972 law. So you have to change that. That has to go with the map that we present. We're also looking at the government as a whole. We looked at, what does the county, what should it look like? Should we think about being a charter county? Charter counties versus what we have currently, there's some good things about it, there's some bad things about it. Some of the good things about it is you can bypass some of the state requirements, the state laws, by having a charter county. But that's it. It's not a big thing for that. So it's a pretty big. That's why it's taken so long to really do it. I don't know why the state, when they had the infinite wisdom of, a census and then you have to change your maps, how come they give you like this short period of time to do it? Because it's longer than that. I mean, it really to be more inclusive in thinking about it. So that's why we're creating not just the law, but how to do it. We've heard comments where legislators should not be on the commission. Why should you deal with your own districts? Gerrymandering. You're hearing all of this stuff, but yet, if you go to the public now and say, what would you like to see? You're going to see everybody say, we don't want a legislature, or let's go with 5. Let's do it that way. I don't believe it's Lewis County, but one of the counties have 7 legislators. Each legislator has around 60,000 people, some weird number. They're each paid $150,000 a year. They're just a full-time professional politician, I guess you could say, for that. And that's what we heard. We didn't want that. We heard people say, we don't want professional politicians for that. So anyway, long story, blah, 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 for that. On the other hand, we're still at 0.7% increase for the county tax, which is good. We did some changes, we added some things, we got rid of some things. So it still stayed at 0.7% tax on there. Our sales tax went up again, 12%. Mortgage tax. I can remember when I was town supervisor, mortgage tax was maybe about $7,000. We just approved that at the last month, so you should be seeing that. I think that's gone up as well. So that's another, I guess, plus thing. Is there anything else? Hot topic for this Thursday? Solar. Solar is a hot topic. They wanted to change the law. My prediction is it will fail. They wanted to get rid of the $7,000 per megawatt fee for pilot, but I think that will fail for that. So, hey, how many people do you get on that watch? Do you ever look?
On the what?
How many viewers?
Oh, I don't know. How many views?
Yeah.
Viewer, yeah.
I don't know.
See, every month you got to tell me.
Oh, I do.
So.
I just set it up and turn it on.
Okay, well, technically, it's kind of like we're ready to do a coming out for this. We've been holding off a little bit. We did get the letter. So the courthouse. So we had a grant that we put in. Our assembly woman, Ann Kellis, scored us a $5 million grant for the courthouse. 2.7 for the first year for the exterior, and then the rest of that's for the interior. So that will be coming out shortly for that. We also unofficially have a grant for the mental health building that we got from Claudia Tenney, and that should fund the entire thing. So those are the two, quote, unofficial, but will be official here shortly for that. So what that means is that our renovations for the courthouse should be 100% paid. So the dome, or whatever they want to call it, cupola. That's part of it. So it's all going to be done. I remember they were talking about getting rid of it, and they're not. It's kind of like an icon that we have for Cortland County.
The birds like it too.
Yeah. Yeah. Other than that, thanks for the input, for the redistricting. We used to hear only the negatives, not the positives. And we really like to hear everything that we can. It was funny that for the first round that we received, I don't know, 17, I think, public comments. Some we threw out because they were kind of vulgar. So we didn't want those out. Those were done. But if anybody off the cuff needs to talk to me, you're more than happy to call to give you more information if you want. But we'll see. Anybody have anything?
Kevin, thanks for coming.
I like being here.
Yeah.
I like being here. Thanks.
Okay. Jen?
Zoning and code enforcement October report. 1 building permit issued, 87 miles traveled, 16 building inspections, 58 hours worked, 3 fire inspections, 2 complaint follow-ups, and 23 telephone inquiries. The next planning board meeting is November 16th at 7 p.m. The next ZBA meeting is December 1st at 7:30 p.m.
Thanks, Jen. Jay is not here, historian.
I
Jen?
did give you a copy of his annual report, so you all have that.
Yeah.
Town clerk fees collected in October, $332, dispersed $294.50 to the town of Preble, $22.50 to New York State Department of Health, and $15 to New York State Ag and Markets.
Thanks, Jen. We'll start with unfinished business. Jim, anything on LED lighting?
No, I haven't gotten through to Bradley Smith. I've gotten calls into him,
Okay.
but he hasn't connected.
No.
He basically wants to know if we convert to tariff B or tariff C lights. And in the information they gave us before was that mainly the main roads are tariff C and the residential streets are tariff Bs. So I got to get that talk with him as to explaining those differences and what options we have.
Okay.
Basically, that's it. And then they should get active. So
Okay.
I'll try to find out.
Okay. Thanks, Jim. Next item is the Morgan property. Jeff, is that what you touched on earlier with Amanda Barber? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So, so we're working on the Morgan property to see what's feasible for that property. And we'll have more information when Amanda gets back to us on that report. Newsletter's coming out, should be coming out probably this week sometime. So you'll see it in your mailboxes. New business, 2023 budget. So we had a public hearing. We had a workshop before that for town board members. And does anybody have any questions about the budget as of right now? If there's no questions, then we need to take a vote on adopting the budget for 2023. Need a resolution.
Make a resolution to adopt the 2023 budget.
All in favor?
Aye.
Carried? Okay. Fire department budget, everybody got a copy of that. We don't need to take any action on it, but just for information. Board of Assessment Review, we lost a member, unfortunately, Jerry Kleiseth. He was a good man on that board, and we're gonna miss him in more ways than that. So we have an opening on that board, so if anybody knows somebody who would like to serve on that board, they'll only have to report once a year, and that's in May. And it's a good way to serve. So let's keep that in mind. Point broadband, Jen, you have any comments on that, on your dealings with them?
Just that I'm working with Jesse. We do have availability to switch over for the town here, but they're still working on the garage because they don't have access to the garage.
Mhm.
Funny, I know. So he was checking with the supervisor and we are supposed to be touching base this week about those things.
Okay, we are gonna ask him about your email.
And about
so-
the email, yeah.
Right. Okay, so when we have more information on that, we will report on it. Monies received from USPS, $779. From Northeast Transformers, $1,771.89. Portland County Sales Tax, $152,065.91. Portland County Road Fund, Highway Maintenance, Snow and Ice, $4,955.27. At this time, I'd like to open up our meeting to public comment. Anybody have any questions or comments? Got
What do you
anything?
find out about the Baptist church over here and the election? You're gonna,
I haven't found,
you forgot it.
no, actually Bob Howe was in the hospital, so, hey.
Yeah, Bob Howe's not doing well.
Yeah, so I decided I better not go that
Right,
route right yet.
right.
Cause I think we've got some time. The only thought that I had was to have code enforcement go into the fire hall, just see, is it ADA compliant? If it's not, what's the problem? Because that's what his counterpart told me, was that he believes it was because someone complained that it was not ADA compliant. Period.
In the town of election, in the city election board, that place is. We went in there, we voted there.
Mhm.
And I said, how is this more compliant than? Have you ever been in there? You go in the back door and they have this little rubber mat so that the wheelchairs can get up in it, but it's not as wide as the door in the fire station.
Yeah,
That's
so,
the first thing that came to mind. I'm like, wait a minute, is this compliant?
yeah, no, I'm a Tuesday voter, so I don't ever go in
I'm a protester.
there. So, yeah, so sorry. So
Hello,
that's,
Dave.
it's not off the radar. I'll tell you that. We're still looking at it. I just want to see, what was the justification for it? What was, if you can,
It all come up when that virus was here. That year, they had some other people up there and bingo. And they weren't even Preble residents, the ones that we have from Preble, no complaint.
The one didn't complain. Remember she came to the board meeting and said she thought it was a great
That
place
was
to have
one,
it.
yeah.
Yeah,
So there must have been just the one person that complained.
apparently that
Yeah.
person had a lot of pull.
the only thing that I did forget, if I can, is that our director of planning, we're doing a search for it. Legislature did remove the residency requirement for that, so that they can live in contiguous county for that. They used to say that they had to be in there, in the county, and that was one of the only positions that was required, other than the commissioners, but they still have their requirements. But planning director was kind of like a leftover, because we weren't getting anybody to apply
And releasing this will get more people to apply.
Good luck.
That's all I forgot to say that.
Any other questions or comments?
The sad part is with this whole redistricting thing that we went through for an hour, how many times does the weighted vote could there have been a different outcome because of a weighted vote?
Usually the weighted vote, the way it is, it's still by the number of legislators, you know.
Okay, I rest my case. This is a exercise in futility brought on by Albany. That's all I see.
I like Jim's idea, send the letters, if everybody send a
Well, she
letter.
wrote it down. She wrote my idea down.
Well,
Well, I think it's a good idea.
well, the one reason why is because you weren't the only one
Oh, really?
that gave those suggestions. It's like, what if we don't?
57 counties together.
Yeah.
They all wrote a letter and said no.
Okay, we need a motion to pay the general fund vouchers.
I'll make a motion to pay general fund vouchers, abstract number 11. Abstract 11, numbers 199 through 215, totaling $8,180.88.
Second.
All in favor?
I
Carried. We also need a motion to pay the highway fund vouchers.
I'll make a motion to pay the highway fund vouchers, abstract number 11, numbers 123 to 140, totaling $49,848.41.
I'll second.
All in favor?
I
Carried. Need a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Dragging that out.
You know, those two legislators, they were just too long-winded, weren't they?
Yeah, I thought I'd come to this one. Yeah?
Need help, old man?
Huh?
Need help? I'll do it, right?
You know what? I saw the number and I'm going, oh, no. I thought it was, the Legion calling me to fill in for Jimmy.
Oh.
At the last
Left
minute.
your message.
Yeah, but I'm like, you know what happens? You left the message, but my phone didn't.
You can't go everywhere.
It took a while. Of course, all of a sudden my phone beat a little bit later. Oh, so I do got the message. That's why I said, oh, no, I'm not playing for you tonight. I already got my jammy. Oh, did ya?